You are still watching the morning call here on Africanews. Now, bitterness and disappointment for African countries at the COP25 Climate Summit. African countries were hoping for progress on the issue of climate financing and more resources to help deal with the effects and the consequences of the natural disasters such as droughts and floods that are increasing on the continent. The summit wrapped up on Sunday with little to show, squeezing hard-earned compromises from countries over a global warming battle plan that fell well short of what science says is needed to tackle the climate crisis, Ruth.
Another disappointment for the countries of the continent is the promise made by the rich countries in 2009 to disburse $100 billion a year by 2020 to help countries made vulnerable by the challenges of climate change. And with less than a year to go, the pledge is still very far-fetched. In addition, the Africa Group requested that a report be prepared by UN climate experts to assess the situation, but this proposal was not adopted. Gabonese Nicaise Moulombi, Executive President of the Network of Civil Society Organizations for Green Economy in Central Africa, who has just returned from Spain, is now joining us by phone from Libreville in Gabon. Hello, and thanks for being with us on the morning call. Were African hopes shattered at this UN climate conference? Of course, Africa is the big loser of this conference. In 2015 in Paris, out of 190 countries, more than 50% or 52% of countries signed the agreement, particularly African countries. So this could mean that today Africa has a weight in the Paris Agreement. But it is so happens that Westerners continue to treat Africa as a separate area. So for me, as a civil society representative for the green economy in Central Africa, it is a disappointment. Another disappointment is Article 6. As you know, this article should address the issue of funding. Year after year, we realize that less than 15% of what was promised in Paris was disbursed. And so it is important for the international community to know that if the African Union decides today to withdraw its countries from the COP, I can tell you very firmly that the damage will be very, very enormous.
Now, Mr. Moulombi, the summit has ended with several African demands not being taken into account. Why is the continent struggling to make its voice heard?
Africa has difficulty making its voice heard because, for me, the climate is becoming a business issue. When Donald Trump decides to leave the Paris Agreement, it is because he realizes that there are countries that have taken the lead, such as China, India, Germany, and others in renewable energy. And so today, Africa is the cradle that does not receive what it is due. And Africa, which has 17% of the world's population, accounts only for 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Yet, the continent has crucial choices to make in order to have the right to a chapter. It is very important today that countries can set up their development programs and try to have their own programs, because it is unacceptable that we continue to treat Africa as a continent responsible for disasters, while the world recognizes that Africa is not responsible and the financial compensation does not come. So the whole issue of loss and damage that is not taken into account is a shock to Africa. And then civil society tells the Western countries, if you do not rush to support the actions of African countries, well, Africans will have their economic model and whose climate damage can be more severe for everyone on the planet.
En tout cas, merci à vous, monsieur.
Thank you so much, Nicaise Moulombi. Thank you so much for talking to us. Nicaise Moulombi is the executive president of the network of civil society organizations for green economy in Central Africa. Speaking to us there from Libreville in Gabon. And the morning call continues with you, Nyasha.
And thank you there to our expert. You're still watching The Morning Call here on Africa News. Remember, you can get these and many more stories right here on Africa News TV, as well as on our website, www.africanews.com. Still to come in the program. Have you set your New Year's resolutions yet? Well, BBC's 2019 Sports Star of the Year, Eliud Kipchoge, certainly has. The Kenyan long-distance runner says he is set for a big 2020 as he is working to set new records at the London Marathon and the Tokyo Olympic Games. Speaking of setting records, these engineers and mechanics spent 6 weeks working in the Kalahari Desert in South Africa to develop a rocket car called the Bloodhound, capable of breaking the world land speed record. And we keep talking breaking technological barriers when Serge Kofi joins us on the platform right after this short break.